it came out that apparently Robert Mueller's investigation is looking into a message that Roger Stone sent. Roger Stone, Trump's, consigliere, worked for the campaign for a couple minutes, but was fired, I think, in 2015 from the campaign. But many believe he was still informally advising and working for Trump. Apparently, Roger Stone sent a message to Sam Nunberg, who was an aide to Trump. He's credited with coming up with the wall that Mexico's going to pay for, saying, "I dined with Julian Assange last night." So, let me read from the Wall Street Journal, which is, the corporate media is acting like this is some bombshell report. I'm going to tell you why it's not in 1 second. But according to the Wall Street Journal, the special counsel investigating alleged links between Trump campaign associates and Russians is looking into longtime advisor Roger Stone's 2016 claim that he had met with WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, according to a person familiar with the matter. WikiLeaks, an anti-secrecy website, later released a trove of material on Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton that U.S. officials say was hacked by Kremlin operatives. Keyword, U.S. officials say. In an email dated August 4th, 2016, Mr. Stone wrote, "I dined with Julian Assange last night." According to a copy of the message reviewed by the Wall Street Journal, Mr. Stone is a longtime informal advisor to President Donald Trump, who at that point had no official campaign role. The note to former Trump advisor Sam Nunberg adds to a growing number of times Mr. Stone claimed during the campaign to be in contact with WikiLeaks. The next day, Mr. Stone publicly praised Mr. Assange via Twitter. In an interview, Mr. Stone said the email to Mr. Nunberg was a joke and that he never communicated with Mr. Assange in 2016. Quote, "I never dined with Assange. The email doesn't have any significance because I provably didn't go. There was no such meeting. It's what you say. It's not what you say, it's what you do. This was said in jest." Mr. Stone said he was flying out of Los Angeles the night before the email, putting him thousands of miles from Ecuador's embassy in London, where Mr. Assange has been holed up since 2012 under asylum. Mr. Stone provided the journal with screenshots showing a book from a person named Roger on a Delta Airlines flight departing Los Angeles for Miami on August 3rd, 2016 at 9:30 p.m. The airline confirmed a flight matching Mr. Stone's screenshot, but declined to say whether Mr. Stone was on board, citing customer privacy rules, and WikiLeaks did not respond to a request for comment. So, they literally will look for anything to get hysterical about. CNN is now wall-to-wall with this. MSNBC is now wall-to-wall with this. First of all, did they meet or did they not meet? That would be the most important thing. Well, if they did meet, then Roger Stone, what did he just put on Harry Potter's invisibility cloak and sneak into the Ecuadorian embassy, which, by the way, the UK, as a proxy for the United States, has eyes on 24/7? Roger Stone, during the campaign in August of 2016, just, gallivanted into the Ecuadorian embassy. Roger Stone, who, if you know Roger Stone, if you've read into him, if you've researched, there's a documentary on Netflix. I think it's Becoming Roger Stone or something. I haven't watched it, but I heard it's pretty good. Is, known as a serial liar, is known as, coming from the, what's the worst kind of politics you could... he comes from a very, very sinister, deceptive school of politics. Okay? So, did he mean that when he said, did he dine with Julian Assange? Does he mean, maybe he Skyped with him? Maybe he tweeted with him? We don't know. Because Robert Mueller hasn't really released all these details from his investigation. But that doesn't stop the corporate media, i.e. MSNBC, who's dying for the ratings in terms of this. They're restoking the Cold War to get ratings. That's what it is. Or CNN, who has put on a Cold War 2.0 reenactment. But the Wall Street Journal publishes that Robert Mueller is looking into this claim, but couldn't Robert Mueller just subpoena Roger Stone's bank records to see, did he have a flight to Ecuador? Can you see if he paid for a flight to LA, which reportedly the Wall Street Journal suggests? Why are we talking about the fact that Roger Stone said he had dinner with Julian Assange when There's no proof he had actual physical dinner with Julian Assange. You know what there is proof of? Let me show you this nothing burger story The Atlantic put out a couple months ago. This was another bombshell report that actually showed the exact opposite of what The Atlantic was alleging. So, you see this picture? This is the sinister picture, theatlantic.com, with the headline, Roger Stone's secret messages with WikiLeaks. Dun, dun, dun. Are you ready? Because this picture scares the hell out of me. It's Assange in silhouette with red tints in his hair. Roger Stone looking like the dead devil reincarnated. I mean, Roger Stone is a bad guy. I'm not going to pretend he's not. But they say, on March 17th, 2017, WikiLeaks tweeted that it never communicated with Roger Stone, a longtime confidant and informal advisor to President Donald Trump. In an interview with House Intelligence Committee last September, Stone, who testified under oath, told lawmakers that he had communicated with WikiLeaks via an intermediary, whom he identified only as a journalist. He declined to reveal that person's identity to the committee, he told reporters later. Private Twitter message obtained by The Atlantic showed that Stone and WikiLeaks, a radical transparency group, keyword radical transparency group, communicated directly on October 13, 2016, and that WikiLeaks sought to keep its channel to Stone open after Trump won the election. You want to see what their sinister communications were? Here we go. Here's the DM that this story was about. Roger Stone, since I was all over national TV, cable, and print defending WikiLeaks and Assange against the claim that you are Russian agents and debunking the false charges of sexual assault as trumped-up BS, you may want to re-examine the strategy of attacking me. Cordially, R. For Roger. WikiLeaks' response, and most reports show that WikiLeaks in Twitter is actually Julian Assange. He runs the account. We appreciate that. However, the false claims of association are being used by the Democrats to undermine the impact of our publications. Don't go there if you don't want us to correct you. So Assange is basically saying, stop lying about talking to us, or I guess now dining with us. Stone says, the more you correct me, the more people think you're lying. Your operation leaks like a sieve. You need to figure out who your friends are. WikiLeaks responded, happy, we are now free to communicate. So what exactly were the sinister communications they were having? Because that's the only DM that has been shown from my eyes that I have seen between WikiLeaks and Roger Stone. Mueller might have more that hasn't come out. But again, I've always said you could have an investigation, but do we need to dedicate 24/7 of our media? And by the way, it's not just corporate media. There are some independent outlets that have gotten very, very lively and engaged in Russiagate for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Keeping it real. But Stone says he dined with Assange. No evidence that he was in Ecuador. We don't know what did Stone Skype with him? With Assange? Did he, tweet with him? What did they have for dinner together? But this is now going to be all over primetime tonight instead of predominantly the teacher's strike, which should be the main story. Instead of the fact that, do you know that a Sacramento deputy sheriff literally ran over a protester at Stefan Clark protest over the weekend? Saturday night, a deputy sheriff ran over a 61-year-old woman and then drove away. Thankfully, she's alive. I haven't seen that at all on corporate media. So now the police who are policing these protests are now running over protesters. Even if it was unintentional. Who knows? If it was intentional, not intentional, benefit of the doubt. It was an accident. Drove off. If I ran over someone and drove off, I'd be in jail, probably for 15 to 20. But Roger Stone says he had dinner with Julian Assange. No evidence of such. Let's talk about it and hyperventilate, because that's what's about to happen, folks. When Robert Mueller comes out and he has actual evidence that some type of sinister collusion happened between the Trump campaign and the Russian government to hack emails or whatever, I'll be the first one to report it. I gladly say, hey, everybody was right. But I have this different notion of journalism. I don't engage in mass speculation 24/7 if I don't have evidence. I wait for investigations to happen. That doesn't mean investigative reporters can't. They're not supposed to wait. They're supposed to try and get the information, get sources with in Mueller's team, who apparently does not leak information. They are supposed to investigate. They are supposed to try and break news. They don't have to wait. But the punditry and the commentators, it's all they cover. While the planet burns, while water across the country gets contaminated, no coverage. While black men are being murdered, still, across the country, they'll cover it when there's mass protests and, police with shields and fire. They'll cover that for a couple days. It's getting ridiculous. And I don't really care what the Hill bots and David Brock's bots on Twitter who attack me and others have to say. This is not the Cold War, even though you'd like to make it that. And Bill Kristol isn't a good guy, even though the Democrats are now kind of like rebranding and rehabilitating the Bill Kristols of the world and the David Frums of the world. Like, enough.